was the first face the world fell in love with. The little girl with golden curls who made America smile through 2 world wars. But on this final night, America's sweetheart is alone, reflecting on a life that lit up the darkness, then faded into unknown. Mary stares at old photographs on the mantel, a young Douglas Fairbanks laughing, Charlie Chaplin tipping his bowler, herself at 20, curls bouncing, eyes full of fire. A half-empty glass of whiskey sits untouched beside her. The mansion she built with love, Pickfair, now feels like a tomb. Fame, she once said, is a bright light that casts the longest shadow. 1 week later, on May 29, 1979, Mary Pickford suffered a cerebral hemorrhage. She died at Santa Monica Hospital with her devoted 3rd husband, Buddy Rogers, at her bedside. Hollywood mourned. The industry she helped invent had already moved on, but the world would never forget the girl who taught it how to dream. But to understand the woman who changed everything, we must go back to where the dream began in poverty and courage. In the twilight of her life, Mary Pickford, the woman who once lit up the silver screen with her golden curls and infectious smile, found herself enveloped in shadows. Alone in the sprawling halls of Pickfair, the mansion that had been the beating heart of Hollywood's golden age, she wandered like a ghost in her own story. The air hung heavy with the scent of aged roses and forgotten glamour. No laughter echoed from the grand ballroom where stars had danced under her watchful eye. Only the ticking of an antique clock, marking the relentless passage of time, broke the oppressive quiet. Fame, that fickle lover, had slipped away, leaving her to reflect on a life that had burned so brightly and now flickered toward its end. On May 29, 1979, at the age of 87, Mary suffered a cerebral hemorrhage, a quiet thief that stole her away in the sanctity of her home. Hollywood mourned not just a star, but an era. Telegrams flooded in from survivors of the silent screen, and headlines whispered of the end of innocence. The woman who had been America's sweetheart, who had shaped the very industry that now outgrew her, was gone. But to understand her final solitude, we must journey back to where it all began. Gladys Louise Smith was born on April 8, 1992, in a modest home in Toronto, Canada, a world away from the glitz of Tinseltown. Her childhood was no fairy tale. When her father, John Charles Smith, an alcoholic laborer, died suddenly in 1899 from a blood clot, the family shattered. Little Gladys, just 7 years old, watched her mother Charlotte scramble to keep them afloat. Poverty knocked at their door, relentless and unforgiving. "We can't go on like this, Gladys. The stage, it's our only chance." Desperation birthed destiny. Charlotte pushed her children into the theater, renaming Gladys Mary Pickford for the stage. Mary's first role came at age 7 in a Toronto stock company, earning a meager $5 a week to feed her family. The road was grueling, endless train rides across Canada and the US, dingy boarding houses, and the sting of rejection. But in those early hardships, a fire ignited. Mary learned to command the stage, her innocence masking a steel resolve. By 1909, at 17, Mary ventured to New York, pounding the pavements of Broadway. Rejections piled up until D.W. Griffith, the visionary director at Biograph Studios, spotted her spark. In the flickering magic of silent cinema, she blossomed. Her roles in films like The Little Princess and Rebecca of Sunnybrook Farm captured hearts. A plucky girl with curls that seemed to dance on screen, embodying the American dream. She became America's sweetheart, the highest-paid woman in the world by 1916, earning $10,000 a week, a fortune that dwarfed presidents. But Mary wasn't content to be a pretty face. She demanded control, negotiating contracts that gave her script approval and profit shares. In a male-dominated industry, she wielded power like a queen. Behind the scenes, Hollywood was a battlefield of egos and exploitation. Studio moguls like Adolph Zukor squeezed stars dry, controlling every frame. Mary saw through it. In a bold move, she co-founded United Artists with Chaplin, Fairbanks, and Griffith, a rebel alliance against the system. UA gave artists ownership, a revolutionary act that shifted power from suits to creators. Whispers in boardrooms called it folly, but Mary proved them wrong, turning it into a powerhouse. Love, too, was a script she rewrote. Her first marriage to actor Owen Moore in 1911 was turbulent, marred by his jealousy and abuse. But in 1920, after a discreet divorce, she wed Douglas Fairbanks, the swashbuckling king of Hollywood. Together they built Pickfair, a 56-room Beverly Hills estate atop a hill dubbed the Second White House. Lavish parties hosted royalty, from Einstein to the Mountbattens, with champagne flowing and stars twinkling below. Yet beneath the glamour, cracks formed. Mary yearned for a family. In 1928, they adopted son Douglas Jr. and daughter Gwyn, children she adored, but the adoption strained their marriage. Douglas's affairs and the pressures of fame eroded their bond. By 1936, divorce shattered the dream, leaving Mary heartbroken. Mary was more than a star, she was a pioneer, but the transition to talkies, it broke her. Her voice, so childlike on screen, didn't translate. She tried in Coquette in 1929, even winning an Oscar, the first for a talkie role, but audiences wanted their sweetheart frozen in time. She retired in 1933, feeling obsolete, and the isolation, it fed her demons. The advent of sound cinema was a seismic shift. Mary's silent artistry, reliant on gesture and gaze, clashed with the new era's demands. Her career waned as younger stars like Garbo rose. Depression crept in, a silent storm she battled privately. Alcohol became a crutch, numbing the pain of lost relevance and personal losses, handled here with the dignity she deserved, a woman fighting unseen battles in an unforgiving spotlight. In her final decades, Mary retreated to Pickfair, selling off pieces of the estate as memories weighed heavy. Isolation became her companion, a far cry from the adoring crowds. Yet in quiet moments she reflected on triumphs, the Oscars, the independence she forged for women in film. Secrets of early Hollywood, power plays were ruthless. Mary outmaneuvered Wembles by threatening to start her own studio, forcing better deals. She mentored Chaplin through scandals, shielding UA from collapse. These weren't just business moves, they were acts of defiance in a cutthroat world. Mary Pickford didn't just star in Hollywood, she built it. From a destitute child in Toronto to the architect of artist empowerment, she changed the game forever. United Artists paved the way for independent cinema. Her legacy endures in every female producer who demands a seat at the table, every star who owns their story. In the end, America's sweetheart taught us that true power lies not in fame's fleeting glow, but in the unyielding spirit that defies the fade to black.